It was 8:42 p.m. when my phone rang. The number was private. I almost ignored it. Almost. If I had, I would still believe my husband was the most honest man I'd ever known. Instead, I answered. For a few seconds, there was only silence. Then a calm woman's voice said something that made my heart stop. Before you trust your husband tonight, ask him where he was last Thursday at 7:30. The line went dead. No explanation. No name. Nothing. I stood frozen in my kitchen, staring at my reflection in the dark window while the sound of rain tapped softly against the glass. My husband, Oliver, was due home in less than 10 minutes. We had been married for 11 years, lived in a quiet suburb just outside Manchester, and until that moment I'd never had a single reason to doubt him. Oliver wasn't secretive. He wasn't distant. He never hid his phone, never disappeared for hours, and never gave me the sort of excuses you hear about in other people's marriages. He remembered birthdays, made me tea every Sunday morning, and still reached for my hand whenever we crossed a busy road. If someone had asked me to describe the perfect husband, I would have described him. So why would a complete stranger tell me not to trust him? I tried convincing myself it was a prank. Maybe someone had dialed the wrong number. Maybe it was one of those cruel scam calls people talked about online. Yet something about the woman's voice unsettled me. She hadn't sounded angry or emotional. She'd sounded certain. 10 minutes later, Oliver walked through the front door carrying a paper bag from our favorite bakery. I brought those cinnamon rolls you like, he said with a grin. He kissed my forehead, took off his rain-soaked jacket, and asked how my day had been. Everything about him felt completely normal. Too normal. As we ate together, I couldn't stop hearing those words. Ask him where he was last Thursday at 7:30. Oliver noticed I was quieter than usual. You've hardly said a word all evening. I'm just tired. You sure? I forced a smile. Work's been busy. He accepted the answer without another question, but I caught him watching me from the corner of his eye more than once, as though he sensed something had changed. After dinner, he carried the plates into the kitchen while I cleared the table. My phone lay beside me. The private number was still in my call history, but when I tried calling it back, I received the same message every time. This number cannot be connected. A cold shiver ran through me. Later that night, after Oliver had fallen asleep, I quietly picked up his jacket from the hallway to hang it properly. As I reached into the pocket, something slipped onto the floor. It wasn't a receipt. It wasn't a second phone. It was a small silver key attached to a faded blue keyring. On the keyring, only one word had been engraved. Harrison. I'd never seen it before. I turned the key over in my hand, trying to remember whether Oliver had ever mentioned anyone or anywhere called Harrison. He hadn't. Then my phone vibrated again. Another private call. This time I answered immediately. The same woman's voice whispered just one sentence. That key opens the door to everything he's been hiding. The call ended before I could say a single word. I looked upstairs towards our bedroom, where Oliver was sleeping peacefully. Then I looked back at the unfamiliar key resting in my hand. For the first time in 11 years, I wasn't wondering whether I trusted my husband. I was wondering what I would find if I stopped trusting him. Emma barely slept. The silver key remained on her bedside table, and every time she closed her eyes, she heard the stranger's voice. That key opens the door to everything he's been hiding. By morning, she had convinced herself there had to be a reasonable explanation. Perhaps the key belonged to Oliver's office. Perhaps Harrison was a storage company or an old client. She wanted to believe that. She needed to believe it. Oliver came downstairs dressed for work, humming softly as he made coffee. You look exhausted, he said, studying her face. Didn't sleep well? Not really. He walked over and kissed her forehead. I'll finish early today. How about dinner in the northern quarter tonight? Emma smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That sounds nice. As soon as Oliver drove away, she picked up the key again. There was a tiny number engraved beneath the word Harrison. Unit 27. Curiosity finally overcame fear. An hour later, Emma found herself standing outside an old warehouse on the edge of Salford Quays. Most of the building had been converted into private storage units. Above the entrance hung a faded sign, Harrison Self-Storage. Emma's heart pounded. She walked along the narrow corridor until she found Unit 27. The key fitted perfectly. For a moment, she couldn't bring herself to turn it. If she opened the door, there would be no going back. Taking a deep breath, she unlocked it. The small room was dimly lit. There were no expensive gifts. No secret phone. No signs of another woman. Instead, the shelves were filled with old cardboard boxes, photo albums, and neatly labeled files. One box had her name written across it. Emma. Her hands trembled as she lifted the lid. Inside were photographs of her taken over the past year. Walking to work. Meeting friends for coffee. Shopping in Manchester city centre. Even sitting alone in the park reading a book. Emma felt sick. Someone had been watching her. Beneath the photographs was a thick envelope. She opened it. Inside were copies of anonymous letters. Every single one had been sent to Oliver. The first read, "She's being watched. Tell the police before it's too late." Another warned, "He knows where she works." Emma's breathing became uneven. None of this made sense. Why had Oliver hidden these letters instead of telling her? Just then, she heard footsteps outside the storage unit. Slow, deliberate. Someone stopped directly outside the open door. Emma looked up. Standing there was the same woman who had called her. She didn't look surprised to see Emma. Instead, she quietly said, "I was hoping you'd find the truth before he found you." Emma's voice shook. "Who are you?" The woman took one slow step inside. "My name is Claire." She glanced towards the photographs scattered across the floor before looking back at Emma. "And if we're already too late, neither of us is safe anymore."